I took this photo on April 3rd of this year, and this school's on a super busy highway with 5 schools within a 3-mile radius of this location. Well, I guess now there's 4 schools. I photoshopped out the name of the school. I'm not looking to embarrass anyone. I just want to make this point. If you do not make some adjustments to serve the post-COVID prospective student, and even your current students, this could be a familiar scene. So what I'm trying to accomplish today is to help you understand how to reduce post-COVID stress and gain some clarity by enrolling more students and keeping them longer. That's what we all want to do, but the landscape has changed drastically. So, reality check number 1. People know that their world can change overnight. We all lived through it. Remember how we used to say the flu is worse? I don't know if the flu is worse, but I know that people are fully aware that what happened could happen again. I'm not going to get into the reasons why it happened, but the fact is it did happen, and our world is getting less stable. We're seeing riots and all kinds of violence out there. So interest in self-defense and martial arts, well, I don't know about martial arts, but interest in self-defense is at an all-time high. Continuing with reality check number 1, because everyone knows things can change, this makes a complex curriculum with a long learning curve much less attractive. You know what that describes? Traditional martial arts. So this means if you want to teach martial arts for a living, you've got to make some decisions. And the first one is this. Do you want to serve your students or serve your style? That's a huge question. That's a critical question. Do you want to serve your students or your style? I love the traditional arts like I love masterpiece paintings or classic movies. It's an appreciation. It's not an obsession. And I sure as heck don't want to bank my family's future on a traditional martial art from 100 years ago. However, if you want to teach the art, you're really into that, you love the culture, the language, the history, the style, thank you for your passion. That's great. I mean, that's like a museum curator. It's very important that these live on, but you have to make a decision. Is this what I want to risk my family's future on, or is this a hobby that I really enjoy? Just like people have all kinds of hobbies. So the focus of this presentation is obviously going to be more commercial in nature, but you'll still get some really good ideas that will help you with your traditional school. And again, I am all for that. There's no question that having a traditional school, especially one that's complex with a long learning curve and people in outdoor pajamas and bowing left and right, that's just going to be less and less appealing. And for many of our martial art family out there, that's just fine. Running a strict traditional school is going to have less commercial appeal than ever before. But for a lot of our fellow martial artists, that's just fine with them. That's what they like. They like to maintain the tradition, and God bless them. That's wonderful. It's not for me. I have nothing but respect for that. But again, I don't want to risk my family's fortune on trying to mimic a ninja or a samurai. I strive for Kaizen, never-ending improvement. That means looking forwards, not backwards. So continuing with reality check number 1, don't be surprised if it gets harder to attract and retain students who live in a one-click, give-it-to-me-now world. So let's take a look at the opposite of a next-gen modern curriculum like Empower Kickboxing. This is truly the antithesis. This is like going into a museum for the Shituru style. Shituru, this Okinawan style. I can barely pronounce it. I've seen it for years. Anyway, And I found this online and I love it, and it's so complete and comprehensive. This is like going to a university to learn Okinawan karate. This is the history, it's the weapons, the ranking, it's complex as can be. Holy cow. And that is wonderful if that's what you want to do. I can tell you the market for this is shrinking by the day. And as comprehensive as this is, you can see that they promise that they have the full, detailed, empty-hand curriculum if you click that link. Isn't that funny? This isn't detailed enough? Holy cow. I mean, that takes a lot of work, and it's highly commendable. It's just going to be tough to sell. You can see how complex this is. The detail, the language barriers, these are all complexities that the average person has no interest in. They're just lost. They associate martial arts with self-defense, and they've been deceived for decades. So let's go on to reality check number 2. COVID has created a thriving stay-at-home fitness and learning industry. What this means is that the fitness industry, which is very well financed, have done a great job of creating Zoom programs. So people, even when COVID ends, they don't have to go to the gym anymore, and they don't have to go to your martial arts school anymore, unless you have the appeal. In other words, your classes, scheduling, and content have to be more convenient, exciting, and easier to learn than ever. Continuing with reality check number 3. This is a big one for a lot of you, because when I'm talking to people about Empower Kickboxing and I show them some videos, one of the most common responses is, I had no idea that you could teach respect and discipline outside of traditional martial arts. I mean, it doesn't mean, they're not saying that it's impossible to teach outside the martial arts. It's just that in the periphery of martial arts, they can't imagine it without wearing gis, bowing, or doing traditional martial arts. So, reality check number 3, students can learn respect, courtesy, and discipline without wearing outdoor pajamas, bowing, or doing traditional martial arts. A great example is the PGA's life skill program called The First Tee. My son took this course, and the life skills were taught every class, just like the martial arts. In golf, they've got to referee their own actions. So you've got to have honesty, integrity, etc. to really play the game of golf to its maximum, to be able to play with other players, etc. So they do a fantastic job with their life skills program. It's not unique to martial arts.
We develop responsibility and respect. We help build confidence and learn how to persevere.
And Empower Kickboxing does exactly that without having to wear uniforms. And Empower Kickboxing does exactly that without having to wear uniforms and a lot of the other typical trappings of a traditional martial arts school. And this is Mark Moore in New Jersey, who's been doing our system for over 20 years. How's that for a teenage class? That's not kids, that's not adults, that's the teen class. Do they look disciplined? Did they look like they're standing up straight? Are they focused? Are they skilled? They're wearing shorts or gi pants and a school shirt and a belt. That's how my school looked for the last decade when I had it. That's what I prefer to see in schools rather than running around in Asian robes. So reality check number 3 continues with the fact that adults avoid or drop out of traditional martial arts for a number of reasons, and that list is increasing by the week since COVID. Number 1 reason, traditional skills are unnecessarily complex. Here's the catch. Students are expected to accept any explanation about how it works. And this can get to the point of being absurd. Some guy posted a comment on one of my reviews of Bunkai, and one of my comments was the bad habit that pulling the hand back to the hip creates. And his comment was that A, I didn't know what I was talking about, I had not been properly taught, and B, it was a grappling technique. So I'm in the middle of doing a form like Batsai or Kwange or Chungmo, and my hand pulls back to my hip and I'm grappling. That's blind acceptance. To that end, for a student to question the efficacy of a technique, that's often looked like you're being disrespectful. And it's not. I do it all the time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, that's gonna work. As opposed to 1. I turn the hip, got my hand up, protected here, I'm all set. Other side, same thing, only different. So that's downward block. How long does it take to learn that? Seconds, not minutes, not hours, not months. Seconds. A good teacher is not threatened by a question. A good teacher thrives on challenge, and in fact challenges the students to dig deeper, not to follow blindly. Remember Bruce Lee's quote, "To liberate yourself from the classical mess"? That was 1971. As many memes as I see people post of Bruce Lee, including that, I don't see many people liberating themselves from the classical mess. And in many cases, it's because people didn't know how to. Instructors didn't know how to. All they knew was their traditional style. And that's where Empower Kickboxing has really made a difference in a lot of people's lives. When you take a look at this curriculum in a few minutes, you're going to be blown away. This is really exciting. And the reality check number 3, the third reason that a lot of adults avoid martial arts or quit is because proper execution of a skill contradicts itself. Watch. Let's explore some contradictions. This does not make sense to me. Does it make sense to you? In the first half of the class, we have students executing their techniques, pulling their hand back to the hip in stiff, upright positions, chin up, and posing for form. And then raising their hand and aiming to step forward and punch and leave the hand out there while the other hand comes back to the hip. Stagnant, still, clunky, clumsy. Even on the highest level, forms are no more than ballet. It's Russian ballet, or you can call it Oriental ballet. Let's contrast that. First half of the class, you're telling the student, get your hand back to your hip, get that chin up, aim that punch to the center of the body, step on through, step forward and block. The guy is advancing. That's just funny. The guy, we have to see that again. He's advancing with blocks. How weird is that? How many times have you ever seen a double punch only in kata? You can step in with the block, but it's quick. It's not pulling away from the opponent and then bringing it around to pose. So I might step in and cover in order to dig this guy's body. That's about the only time. You also tell people, pull your hand back to your hip in the first half of the class. And then when they're sparring, you tell them, get their hands up. You keep them still in horse stance, and then you tell them they got to move around when they're sparring. One of the worst defensive sins that a fighter can have is to raise the chin up.
How do you fight multiple opponents? You do not stand in the center like kata teaches you and swivel to fight and turn and get this guy and turn and get this guy, and then I get this way and I block and I turn and this way, this guy's over here. You don't stand in the middle. You stack them up, pound them, sweep them, get them out of the way, and move on to the next guy. You use one guy as a shield to get the other while you're pounding his head.
Fight two, fight two! That's it! Fight one, fight one! That's it! Fight two, fight two, fight two! Fight one, fight one! That's it, keep working! Fight two, fight two, fight two! Time! It's over!
You don't see that in kata. So why is kata and bunkai so complex when we know that the first rule of self-defense is under stress it has to be simple, super simple. So look at these videos through the eyes of a self-defense expert or someone who understands real fighting, real self-defense, not from someone who's been hypnotized by the East for 30 years, being told and believing that this is authentic and these are the true secrets of learning how to defend yourself and how to fight. It is all smoke and mirrors. And I defy anybody to show me a bunkai. And I've seen them. These guys are so athletic. And to be clear, I love the athleticism. I love the artistry. But I draw the line when you call it real self-defense. I love West Side Story. The fight scenes in that film were great. But like bunkai, they were stylized representations of fighting. They were nowhere near the real thing. And sometimes the guy holds it out there so long that he can block it twice. How can you watch that and think, oh, that makes sense?
I snuck that little bonus in there to make sure you're paying attention. Let's move to some common pains and some solutions for that pain. Pain 1. Traditional martial arts requires a heavy teaching load because of advanced kata and skills. Think about this. If you didn't have advanced kata, would you require additional higher rank classes? Oh no. Johnny can't go to the green belt class because he only knows Chunji. He doesn't know Tongun yet, or whatever your forms are. What if you didn't have any kata? Wouldn't that free things up a lot? Do you think adults really want to try jump spinning back kicks in their 40s, late 30s, 40s, 50s? Some do, most don't. So it's just too complex and too difficult. So it's a way to, our goal is to meet the students where they're at and then align and redirect. Most of us inherit the system and the schedule we came up in. But it's important that you're always questioning why. Why, not blindly accepting. The solution is to replace kata and most advanced skills, and this is important, with advanced applications of basic skills. People don't need batsai. They only have so much time for martial arts. They want self-defense, sport fighting for fun, and practical training. So if you eliminate kata and a lot of that complexity, you're going to retain a lot more students, and I'm going to show you how to structure that in just a minute. Pain for many martial arts instructors is that the traditional martial arts suffer, and this is really big. Traditional martial arts suffer from a boatload of theory and a vacuum of evidence. I mean, the kata we just watched, the bunkai we just watched, that's all theory. If he does this, I'll do that. But first, let's practice it, rehearse it 7 times, and then you hold your arm out long enough for me to do my, I don't know what the heck they were doing. Either way, as an instructor, you feel this because you're teaching a lot, but you're not feeling the pain of the student trying to swim through all of this stuff. So it's really important that we address this theoretical history of traditional martial arts and the fact there is no evidence that this stuff works. And you could say, oh, yeah, well, this guy defended himself, in 1976. Most of these guys that designed these traditional systems were scholars. They went to university. They probably never had a fight in their life. They certainly didn't fight a 6'3" drunk on PCP. So that's why it's all theory, and I just wonder who the heck taught these guys how to fight? Who the heck said, oh, that's good. Let's sign off on that. That makes sense. It is all smoke and mirrors. So the pain is that there's a boatload of theory and a vacuum of evidence. The solution is teach only evidence-based skills and evidence-based self-defense. No more of these silly hidden techniques in kata. That's irritating. Here's the next pain. Traditional martial arts has needless complexity that creates student stagnation due to a lack of progress. That leads to dropouts. Imagine a pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid are the white belts and the beginners. They have all kinds of new material to learn. They're very busy. Plus, as we'll look at our schedule, they have more classes to choose from. Most schools have beginner classes every night. But as you advance in rank, you learn less. By the time you hit green or blue belt, the new thing you're going to learn are 2 new forms. By the time you make black belt, it's 1 or 2 forms, and your next test is in 2 years before you can learn the second degree forms. Not that there's anything special about them, but it's just a way of keeping the student subservient to the master longer. It's very Eastern. So the pain is there's needless complexity, and it creates boredom, stagnation, which leads to dropouts. The solution is simplicity. And you inject variety into the class with drills and skills that give a sense of progress every class. When you're leading the class through their basic form as an orange belt, and you're in a very excited tone saying this step, turn to your left, step, aim, step, punch, turn to your right, block, aim, step, punch. That's exciting. Man, that really conveys progress. I can just feel myself getting better. You have to understand this. It's not about the skills. It's about the application. Who needs a John Deere tractor if you can't figure out how to make it work? Especially if you live in the city. Match the tools to the task. And when we're making students do kata from 70 years ago, that makes no sense if you look at it. We are not matching the tool to the task. Pain. Martial arts has a traditional martial arts has a long learning curve. That requires students to be patient in order to finally get some practical value. Think about that, gang. Why? Who wants to sign up to take longer to learn something? Okay, I can learn to drive in a week at this school, and it's going to take 6 months at this school. Which am I going to sign up for? I want my kid to learn how to swim. This school will teach him how to swim and get to the side of the pool and hold his friend and get him to the side of the pool in 4 weeks. This school will take 4 months to do the exact same thing. You're flying against human nature, especially Western human nature. There's no need for a padded curriculum other than, and this is important, like I said before, it keeps the students subservient to the master for longer. That is classic Eastern mindset. So the solution to the pain of the long learning curve that requires students to be patient until finally they get some practical value is to make things easier to learn. Blasphemy. Make martial arts easier to learn. Oh my good Mr. Grade, you've lost your mind. That may be true. This is what I'm hearing most about guys that come to Empower Kickboxing, and we have the conversation, and they just shake their heads, holy cow. You've been feeling stuck. And this is painful, especially when you're not sure that what you're teaching, this is a line that's in red for a reason. What you're teaching, you're not sure what you're teaching really makes sense anymore. Or even to how to keep things interesting in class. And this is what I'm hearing most. I'm lost. Mr. Gray, I've been doing this stuff forever. It just seems like when we line up to do forms or something, I can hear a collective from the students. When we go from t-shirts in the summer back to gi tops, I can hear a collective sigh or frustration. So, I don't know what to do. And I understand that because your only exposure for the most part is through the school that you were raised in, which typically is pretty centric towards the style that you were raised in as well. So the tournaments you go to reinforce that stuff, and the events that you go to reinforce all those principles, when in fact it's all truly smoke and mirrors. So here is a great example of not feeling comfortable with what you're doing and questioning if what I'm doing makes sense anymore. This is Gino Guevara from San Antonio, Texas. And he was a Jun-Ri black belt. And he loves Jun-Ri and he loves Taekwondo. But as he says right here, I'm an old school Taekwondo instructor. Everything Mr. Graydon described about the complexity of multiple classes learning different katas were true. I struggled for years trying to come up with a solution. His solution was Empower Kickboxing. He did it in the middle of the COVID. He said that he did not lose a single student. In fact, everybody loved it. And the reason is that Empower Kickboxing is not fitness kickboxing. It's a real martial art system. It's got a 4-part curriculum that we're going to go over in just a minute that is really cool, really makes it work. So the curriculum for Empower Kickboxing changes every month. We call a month a module, which is 8 classes. So module number 1 of the martial arts. Now understand we have a warm-up, we have a self-defense lesson, we have a cool-down, and we have target and pad work every class. So when we say we're teaching martial arts in this module, this month 1, there's about a 10-minute teaching segment in the class that will focus on martial arts. And for the martial arts, we teach the most effective open hand strikes from the martial arts, and that's about it, because as far as I'm concerned, that's about all there is. However, the open hand strikes are very cool, they're super effective, and they're easy to teach and easy to learn, and you can introduce a lot of variety in the class. And this is where the martial arts really applies to self-defense. I think the most effective self-defense skills in all martial arts are the open hand strikes. So let's take a look at an example.
Anyway, you know how to do it. Yeah. Well, show me.
Green sardine.
Get your base of warrior stance with your knife hand. Go in. Like, how hard do you have to hit them, though? You do a pop. Like, alright, demonstrate it. Like, show you? Let me hit you? Yeah. Hit it. Oh.
If you do a search for Karate Chop KO, you'll see dozens of these videos. I think it's hilarious. But that is indicative of reality. Now compare that to the bunkai we saw earlier. What do you think works better? Okay. Month number 2 is focused on weapons. And we do the rubber chucks for the kids. And you can use any weapon that you're good at in addition or instead of the chucks. We just like the rubber chucks because they're fun, they're practical. We don't really do the kind of baton twirling that you see in tournaments. We do more of the Tadashi Yamashita self-defense nunchaku. But whatever you want to do during that 8 classes, that module, that month is up to you. We use the rubber chucks, so that's kind of what we focus on. And we have Master James Terrace, who is our nunchaku expert.
And the single dragon spitting the tail, striking out. So yeah.
And they love it. Little rubber chucks there. That's just wonderful. I'm really proud of that particular module, but I'm even more proud of this. Our Module 3 is kickboxing, specifically the Joe Louis kickboxing system. Now, I don't know if you know this, but I've had a long relationship with Joe Louis from 1984, actually 1976, but there was a gap. 1984 up until his death in 2012, and boy, we miss him all the time. We miss him every day. He was a genius instructor, a genius in curriculum design. No question about it. I've worked with a ton of people, and nobody is in his league. But even though our foundation is the Joe Louis kickboxing system, we still spice it up with savate drills, Muay Thai drills, and other exotic skills and drills that make things fun, easy to learn, and practical. Remember, it's the application that matters, not the complexity or advance. So my relationship, really took off with Joe Louis in the mid-1980s. This was one of at least a half dozen covers that I was on. Also, centerfolds. I was actually in London at the Waco World Champions. I was a fighter there. We won. And I saw a newsstand, and there was Karate International magazine, and that photo was the centerfold. And I thought, holy cow, I am walking through London at a newsstand, and I'm the centerfold. And if you go back to the 70s and 80s, you know what that means. Okay, so how proud am I? The first night I went to karate class, I convinced my dad to buy a copy of Professional Karate magazine. On the back was Joe Louis with his flying sidekick. I'd never seen him before, didn't know who he was, but at that moment, he became my hero. He was everything that I thought a martial artist could be. And then fast forward a decade and a half, and he is in Black Belt magazine naming myself and my brother Jim as the heirs to his system. The title of this article was The Passing of the Torch, and it was about Joe Louis passing the torch to my brother Jim and I. And I would include Mark in there as well. He didn't train with Joe Louis as much as Jim and I, but Mark is a great fighter, and he picked up a lot of material from Joe. So it's kind of a family thing, and we're so proud. And who can imagine, that I'm in that white belt, I'm in the car, I've got the Pro Karate magazine, I'm looking at this guy, he's my hero. Fast forward, and in Black Belt magazine, who could possibly be worthy enough to take the flame and follow in Louis's rather large footsteps? Actually, Louis claims it will take two individuals to fill his shoes, the Graydon brothers. How freaking cool is that? I'm just so proud of that, and I'm proud to be able to bring this to you. That's why we have our ranking system as well. It's Joe Louis, me, you. So this is all very exciting, and it's right here for you. Carry it on. I'm sorry I'm bragging here a little bit here, but this was a shot from a seminar that Joe Louis and I did together in Florence, Italy, at a beautiful resort. It was surreal how cool this was, and it lasted for hours in the heat. He never complained. He took every photo. He cracked jokes. He was a true professional. And I gotta finish with this. This is American Karate Magazine, and what a caption. You couldn't write that any better. Louis exchanges kicks with his favorite sparring partner, John Graydon. That's on Madeira Beach behind Joe Louis's, actually behind Mike Anderson's house back in the day. So let's get a quick peek of the kind of material that Joe Louis brings to Empower Kickboxing.
We're going to go a 1-3-2 cut kick. Watch it slowly. We're going to step in first of all with a straight jab. Boom. Then you're going to rotate a hook behind it. Back with a straight right hand. Close the door, cut kick. Boom.
See, that's just a combination, but the strategy and tactics and all, that's all in there. And if you think that's good, that's Module 3. Month 3 is kickboxing / Joe Louis kickboxing. Module 4, month 4, to me is gold. It is as good as, if not better than the Joe Louis, because to me, Chris Sutton, founder of Cobra Defense, is the Joe Louis of the self-defense world. And this curriculum, this module is so good that we actually encourage our member schools to open it up to the general public. So you've got 8 classes, and you can say, come take an 8-class self-defense program for $2.99 or $3.99. And it's a great way to create a relationship with students, because once they come into your school and take the self-defense course, you can offer them to continue in the classes. Maybe you enroll them 3 or 4 weeks before the self-defense class begins, so you allow them to come to some of your Empower Kickboxing classes because they can join the class even though they're brand new beginners because the material is so simple. So you're about to see a home invasion scenario for the kids class. I'm telling you, no one does this but Cobra. It is light years ahead of everybody else and everything that I've seen for self-defense. So this is a home invasion scenario for a kids class. So let me warn you, if you try this without proper setup, you're going to have freaked out parents on your hands because I tell you what, the key to this is how you set it up. And Chris Sutton is brilliant at this, and he's got the whole script down and everything because parents will freak when they watch their child simulating a home invasion with a guy barking at them and open the door, call 911. What are you going to do? Now, in this class, there were kids from 6 to about 12, and obviously the older kids did better. And this guy happens to be my son. And my lovely wife, Janet, is in the back watching her stepson in action. So here we go. Let's take a look at the home invasion scenario.
Don't panic. Drop it and run. Drop it and run. Go. Go.
Untie that in order to do motor skills.
Open it and shut it. Open it and shut it. You didn't open it and shut it. Open it and shut it. Lock it. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Find the phone. Open this door. 5. Come on. 4, 3, 2. I'm coming in. I'm coming in. Let's go. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And time.
And that's it. He was smiling. Some kids are pretty freaked. A lot of parents are going, their hearts are pounding because they just see their child in that situation. So it's interesting. So as a recap, the Empower Kickboxing curriculum, month 1 is martial arts, 2 weapons, 3 Joe Louis kickboxing, 4 Cobra defense. Let's move to scheduling. This is super important because good scheduling should help a prospect choose your school over another. Most of us just inherit our schedules, and it looks typically like this. Yours may not, I don't know, but this is typically what I hear from guys across the nation. In the afternoon, pretty much after school, that could be 3:30 or 4:30. And you, again, Monday, Wednesday, white and orange belts for kids, then Tuesday, Thursday, green and blue. And then at 5:10, so these are half-hour classes or 50-minute classes, depending on the age and time. And it alternates. So now the green and blues are Monday and Wednesday, and the white orange are Tuesday and Thursday. That gives convenience. So let's pause for a second. That means parents, new parents, have a choice of 4 nights a week to come to class. And then when they graduate from orange belt to green and blue, they also have 4 classes a week to choose from. Isn't that convenient? And it's about to go bye-bye. So at 6-ish or so, whatever your numbers are, there might be an advanced class for the kids, brown and black belts. But now there's only 2 classes a week, and it's at 6 o'clock. That's a difference. And this is where we start to bring the adults in. 6 o'clock on Tuesday and Thursday for adults. And then at 7 o'clock, the kids are out, and the adults have 7 o'clock, 7:10, Monday, Wednesday, and then green and blue on Tuesday, Thursday. And then at 9, the advanced ranks. Green and blue on Monday, Wednesday, brown and black on Tuesday, Thursday. That's exactly how I ran my school. The times were different, etc., but it was 5 classes a night. And as you advanced in rank, your choice was reduced. You had less choice because green and blue belts as adults, yeah. Oh boy, I goofed. Dang it. So once you hit green belt, you only have 2 classes a week to choose from. And once you hit brown and black belt, you only had 2 classes a week to choose from. And these classes start at 8 o'clock at night. So that's a tough schedule. That's a lot of classes to teach each week. It's hard to keep your energy up. It's hard to keep students because you're constantly changing the times they come to class based upon their rank. Every time they test, it changes, or just about every time. So here's an Empower Kickboxing schedule. It's completely different because you have all students in one class. There are no classes based on rank. Students advance in rank. You can get a black belt in power kickboxing. You can get a gold belt, orange belt, blue belt. Every school is different, and the testing is all baked into the system. You can even get testing fees, graduations, the whole deal. But the point is that now you're looking at a much lighter teaching load. And what happens here is once these classes fill up, which with the program they will, then you start to add additional classes, but it doesn't change the choices for the parents, because kids will always be welcome in a kids class no matter what rank they are, white belts and black belts. Same with adults. I could be in a class with a 14-year-old white belt. He would be focused on the mechanics of what he's learning. I'd be focused on the advanced kind of nuanced things that I know that I need to work on. But we still would be engaged and we're still having a great time in class. And then on the weekends, I always did something exactly like this. I would have a kids class and an adult class. In those days, I would let all the advanced come in because I would do a lot of drills in these classes. I wouldn't do kata or any of the basics. So it was kind of a sport karate type thing, but with the power kickboxing, it makes it a lot easier. On Saturdays, we always had a martial arts fitness class at 9 a.m. That was very popular. And we didn't charge for it, but you could. At 10 o'clock, we have the leadership program, which is I'm teaching students how to teach, which is a great idea because now they come in and they can help you in classes. In fact, they have to attend one class a week and help teach that class. So that's great. And then at 11, I'd have these same leadership team members teach a free private lesson. Teach a free private lesson. So students would enroll and fill up the list for free privates on Saturday. These guys would take their leadership class and then stick around for 20 minutes and teach a free private lesson. That's a great way to get students that are falling behind back on track. Or someone's on vacation and they come back to class. It's a great way to get them back on track. So free privates, and I know that says leadship, but I'm not going to change it. Just think Star Trek maybe. So that's actually a pretty cool way to keep students involved in the program, and that leadership program can be an upsell. So let's look at revenue streams for Empower Kickboxing. Obviously tuition, and then our first, obviously tuition, and then as we start our upsells, a leadership program, again, it's how you learn how to teach, present, and lead. This was super popular for my school. This was a big class. It was my favorite class to teach. I was teaching presentation skills and all kinds of great stuff. Sparring class, you can charge for that. So they take class. If they want to spar, it's an additional $20 a month. That's a great idea because some people don't want to spar and they can avoid it, and you can offer it to them if they want to pay. The black belt zone is the same as the black belt club. A black belt zone means that this student is committed to earning their black belt, so they pay an additional premium, say $30, $40, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever your market will allow, that gives them discounts on special events, a special uniform to wear. They get special events just for them, so it's really a special club. I like black belt zone because I'm zoned in a black belt. That's my own iteration, as opposed to the black belt club. And clubs are always, kind of clubby, in and out, and that kind of thing. So carrying on, self-defense seminars. One, as I mentioned in the fourth module, the fourth month of the curriculum, this happens 3 times a year. You've got an 8-week seminar that you can actually an 8-week course that you can sell. And you can also reach out into the community and do seminars based upon the Cobra Self-Defense Program because you're going to learn a whole lot about it. It's not like being a Cobra member. They're taught the business of self-defense, and they're also taught how to teach this stuff. But you're getting kind of just the super light Cobra defense exposure. This is nothing like going deep into Cobra, but it's just enough to make those modules, the self-defense modules, really super exciting. Special events. This can be anything from parents' night out to a Halloween party, a special inter-school tournament, whatever you want to do. I'm sure you're already doing this. Advanced training. Now, this is an interesting idea. There are probably people that would like to learn your traditional style in addition or in place of. So if I'm a Taekwondo black belt, there are people that would like to learn the traditional Taekwondo system either as opposed to Empower Kickboxing or in addition to Empower Kickboxing. That's a high premium class. It's a lot harder to teach. It's a lot harder to learn. There's a lot more to it. So you charge a premium for that class. Apparel, t-shirts, all kinds of goodies, gloves. Equipment, obviously, in time we're going to have Empower Kickboxing labeled. We used to have Empower Boxing labeled, but now we're going to get Empower Kickboxing labeled. Private lessons with you. Like the advanced training in your traditional style, odds are some people would like to train one-on-one with you. I used to advertise my private lessons to the wealthiest people in my area. So I was kind of pulled into their circle. It's kind of a funny story. I had a lot of doctors that were private students of mine, and they loved to take me out for lunch and go to the country club and kind of show me off as a world champion. I was auctioned off for $125 for a 1-hour private lesson at the house that the movie Cocoon was shot in. And it was so weird being auctioned off. It's all right, next up, John Graydon, world champion. Private lesson for 1 hour. Bidding starts at $125. You just sit there and nobody says anything. It's kind of freaky. But somebody bid $125 and never contacted me again. So let's wrap this up with the advantages of Empower Kickboxing for you and your students. For you, it's a lot easier to teach, and for your students, it's a lot easier to learn. For you, it's a lot easier to manage. Why? All students are in one class. You have less classes to teach, and you do not have as much complexity as you do in a traditional program. For the students, it's a more consistent schedule. As I pointed out, they don't have to go to a different class because they advance in rank. That's always the same time. That really makes a big difference in busy families' lives. It's easier to sell because it makes sense, and students can learn a lot faster, which is a real great motivator. They'll give you more referrals, and they will stay a whole lot longer. Empower Boxing does not require a high skill to teach. Doesn't mean you can come off the street and teach it, but it doesn't require third-degree black belt skills so that you can do batsai exactly with your pinky in the right place. And for students, the skills make a lot more sense. There's none of this pulling my hand back to my hip is for grappling stuff. Virtually every segment in every class is on video. So it's demoed by me, one of our instructors, or Joe Lewis, or Chris Sutton. So it pops up and it's like 60 seconds, maybe sometimes 90 seconds. And you learn how to teach whatever you want to teach. And that makes teaching a whole lot easier. It also gives the students a consistent class experience from school to school, from class to class. A lot of times you might recall that if Mr. Smith came in and taught, it was different than when Mr. Jones came in and taught. With our video lesson plans, it makes it very consistent. Even from school to school, if you have multiple schools, that's a great way to make sure that you have curriculum consistency. And that also makes it the easiest way to expand because you have a good idea of what's going on there, which again, to repeat myself, gives you curriculum consistency, which gives you curriculum consistency, which is a really big challenge once you move into multiple schools. I can assure you of that. Empower Kickboxing is easier to explain and easier to sell because it makes sense to anyone. and it is much less confusing and intimidating for the students. So in the end, it doesn't matter what it is, the Apple computer, the internet, the car over horse and buggy, the Morse code over letters, the phone over letters. Actually, the big complaint when the phone came around is that would be the end of letter writing. So there's always a complaint. But the nature of innovation is very simply, when the website was first created, the internet came out, that made things more convenient. And then mobile phones, that made things even easier. And then text messaging made it super fast. So that's the nature of innovation. And if you look at those, every single one of those three apply to Empower Kickboxing. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it didn't go too long. And I would encourage you to stick around just for a second here, because I'd like to set up a time to chat with you about your situation. So I'm inviting you to book a free exploration phone call. So you can use this link to book a free call, and I'm going to discuss your situation with you, and we'll walk through it, and I'll give you some ideas about how to improve what you're doing and reduce some of the stress that you're going through. It's not a sales call, and I've never been a closer, so to say. It's entirely up to you. If you're a fit, great. If not, I assure you I'll help you all I can. That's what I've been doing for something like 30 years for martial arts school owners, and I think you probably know that. If you don't, Google John Graydon. So either way, just click on either one of these images. It'll take you to, just click on either image, and just click on either image to schedule a call. I look forward to chatting with you. Figure about 20, 30 minutes, and we will learn about each other, and I look forward to meeting you. Thanks so much for watching. Please share this with your friends, and good day. Thanks.